On this Wednesday night, Health Canada's stamp of approval for a second COVID-19 vaccine. How soon it'll get here and why Canadians still can't let their guard down.
You can be part of the solution.
Avoiding a Christmas home alone.
Bit of a risk, even though it's following the rule.
The praise and criticism to Alberta's restriction revision. What happened inside this prison? The correctional officers accused in an Indigenous inmate's death. And dear Michael and Michael.
It doesn't matter if they ever see the card, they hear that the cards are there.
The campaign to brighten Christmas for 2 Canadians detained in China.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Robin Gill.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with good news about the fight against COVID-19. Health Canada has given the green light to a second vaccine. The federal agency says its review found the Moderna vaccine to be both safe and effective. According to Moderna, the first doses could arrive in Canada by Christmas Day. Up to 168,000 doses are expected to be delivered by the end of next week. Unlike the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, the Moderna shot doesn't require ultra-cold freezers, so it'll be easier to ship to northern, remote, and Indigenous communities.
This authorization is a critical step in ensuring a COVID-19 vaccine is available to all Canadians in all parts of the country.
If all goes according to plan, the first Moderna doses will arrive in the territories by December 28th. Rollout will then ramp up in the new year. In tonight's top story, we look at Canada's vaccination operation and the warnings as we head into Christmas break. Here's Couteur.
The first doses of our guaranteed 40 million dose order from Moderna will arrive in the coming days.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's tidings of joy didn't stop there. In addition to the first shipments of the Moderna vaccine, Canada is getting an extra 250,000 Pfizer-BioNTech doses in January.
We're on track to have at least 1.2 million doses from both Pfizer and Moderna delivered by January 31st.
It means 600,000 Canadians could be immunized by the end of the first month of next year. Health officials say they're still on track to inoculate everyone who wants a COVID-19 vaccine by the end of September 2021. The one key to herd immunity for Canada is making sure the vaccine gets to everyone, something officials can finally start in remote areas like the territories because the Moderna vaccine travels better than Pfizer's.
The planning assumption has been to really deliver enough vaccine to be able to cover 75% of their population so that we're not making multiple trips to a small community.
Other vaccines from AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson are being reviewed by Health Canada.
In both of those, the reviews are progressing, and they're progressing well. But in both cases, we're still waiting for packages of information.
Even without those two, Canada is still on track to have 6 million doses of vaccines by the end of March.
We're almost there, but we're not there yet.
COVID-19 cases continue to climb in Canada, even as Ontario and Quebec prepare for lockdowns. And the Prime Minister is urging Canadians to resist the temptation to bend the rules and gather over the holidays.
Reach out over Zoom, reach out over the phone to make sure that people know we're thinking of them. And part of our love for them and thinking of them is not showing up to give them a hug this Christmas.
With the hope that things will be much closer to normal next Christmas. Couteur, Global News, Ottawa.
The plea for Canadians to stay home for the holidays is being repeated across the country, especially in the 2 biggest provinces where infection numbers are surging. For the second day in a row, Quebec shattered its record for daily new cases with more than 2,200 infections. 74 more people died. In Ontario, there were more than 2,400 new infections. That's the second highest case count in the province since the start of the pandemic. 41 more people died. In Toronto, there were more than 600 new cases today. The city's top doctor says she understands how hard it is for people, but she's reminding them that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
It is natural to want to rebel in some way against all the obstacles we face. But this is just 1 year of the unusual. And next year, I believe that we can expect better things.
Alberta has eased its restrictions on holiday gatherings just in time for Christmas. Beginning today and for the next 5 days, single people can join another household for a get-together. But the number of COVID-19 hospitalizations continues to climb to record numbers. And as Heather Yourex-West explains, what people do over the holidays will have a huge impact on the health system in the new year.
For Brian Letts, it's been an unexpected Christmas surprise.
I instantly took a screenshot and sent it to my boyfriend. Excited, because I'm able to actually have a Christmas, I guess.
We've made some changes to the public health restrictions that will allow single Albertans to enjoy the holidays with loved ones in a safe way.
Alberta's one-time exemption to the Christmas gathering limit starts Wednesday and goes until December 28th. A person living alone can attend one holiday get-together in another household, and a household may have up to 2 single people as guests. If they have children under 18, they can attend as well. Alberta's daily infection numbers have dropped in recent days, but the number of COVID patients being treated in hospital is at an all-time high.
I'd be very careful on relaxation of rules, especially during this very precarious time. It's the Christmas season, it's the holiday season. We know people are going to be getting together despite what public health measures might say and suggest, and we really should be doing everything we can to keep those numbers down.
Alberta's recent surge in cases can be traced back to Thanksgiving gatherings. The Premier says that can't happen again. The question is, will easing restrictions open the door for more people to break the rules?
There is a risk that some individuals will go too far and take this as carte blanche to visit lots of others, and that would be a bad thing. Realistically, however, those are probably the individuals who wouldn't have listened to the rules in the first place.
The added risks aren't lost on Letts either, so he's been isolating ahead of the gathering just in case, grateful for even a brief opportunity to share some Christmas cheer. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
The federal government is extending a travel restriction on passengers from the United Kingdom. The original 72-hour ban on all commercial and passenger flights was set to expire today.
We will extend this temporary suspension of passenger flights from the UK to Canada for another 2 weeks until January 6th, so we can prevent this new variant of COVID-19 from spreading in Canada.
Canada is one of several countries to ban travel from the UK because of the new strain. Late last night, France agreed to reopen its borders to French citizens, residents, and truck drivers. The agreement requires travelers to have proof of a negative COVID-19 test before they can cross the English Channel. As Crystal Goomansingh explains, thousands of truck drivers are now waiting to be tested.
Facing a 4th night stranded in their vehicles with no end in sight, transport truck drivers are lashing out. An emergency COVID-19 testing program is underway as a part of a deal to reopen the border between Britain and France.
It's been an enormous operation, not something that could be done instantaneously, and it's one of the reasons why we continue to appeal to people to stay away from Kent and stay away from the port in particular.
Thousands of trucks are caught up in the virus-related gridlock, which began Sunday night. France is requiring proof haulers don't have the virus. Drivers must sit and wait in their vehicles until a member of the military or the National Health Service comes by to test them.
They need information. The people need to be patient if they have information. If no information, maybe, I don't know, they get worried.
Infection rates are surging in the UK. Cases are up 57% from last week, and hospitalizations are nearing those seen in April. The health secretary announced more communities will be locked down come Boxing Day, but that's not all. A new strain has been found.
We've detected 2 cases of another new variant of coronavirus here in the UK. Both are contacts of cases who have travelled from South Africa over the past few weeks.
So the new variant in the UK, which we've identified, is very different to the variant in South Africa. It's got different mutations. Both of them look like they're more transmissible.
With another more infectious strain, there are fears case numbers will rise even higher. Anyone who recently visited South Africa or has been around someone who has is being told to isolate immediately. Crystal Goomansingh, Global News, London.
Late tonight, the British Transport Minister announced he's temporarily suspending flights from South Africa starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. British and Irish citizens and permanent residents coming from South Africa will be allowed in but must self-isolate for 10 days. No visitors from South Africa will be allowed to enter England. 500 families that lost loved ones to COVID-19 in Italy have filed a civil lawsuit against regional and national authorities, seeking more than $150 million in damages. The suit alleges the government failed to update a national pandemic plan, and that failure contributed to thousands of preventable deaths. This was a scene at Rome's largest train station today. Last-minute travelers rushing to leave the capital on the eve of a nationwide lockdown over Christmas and New Year's. Italy has the highest death toll in Europe. Nearly 70,000 people have died since the beginning of the pandemic. 96 cases are now being linked to a COVID-19 outbreak at Big White Ski Resort in Kelowna, BC. The health authority for the region says the outbreak is linked to group housing and social gatherings. Health officials are reminding skiers and snowboarders to stick to their local slopes and abide by the provincial advisory against non-essential travel. An outbreak at a federal prison in Saskatchewan has now grown to more than 130 confirmed cases. The Saskatchewan Penitentiary detected its first case of COVID-19 on December 12th. In less than 2 weeks, that spread to at least 123 inmates and 14 staff. The Canadian Red Cross is now on site to help. How the virus got into the prison has not yet been determined. Tonight, the Canadian Armed Forces has a new boss. Vice Admiral Art MacDonald, commander of the Royal Canadian Navy since 2016, is the new Chief of Defence. He replaces General Jonathan Vance, who announced his retirement last summer. MacDonald was considered the leading candidate. He will now oversee the rollout of the new COVID-19 vaccines. The outgoing U.S. president is fired up. Coming up, the enormous spending bill Donald Trump thinks is disgraceful. Plus, why the incoming commander-in-chief Joe Biden has to start from scratch with Twitter. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to torpedo a massive COVID-19 relief package that has recently been passed by Congress. Current federal funding is due to expire on Monday if Trump doesn't sign the bill into law. His last-minute objections are setting up a showdown within the Republican Party and could risk a federal government shutdown by early next week. Jennifer Johnson reports.
It's taken forever.
Appearing on camera for the first time in 10 days, U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out at Congress over its just-passed coronavirus aid package, part of a 5,500-page spending bill the president calls a disgrace.
It's called the COVID relief bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt.
But just $600 in aid for most Americans.
I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple.
Both Democrats and Republicans bickered for months over a second stimulus bill, even delaying their holiday break to pass this one. The bill is so massive, few, if any, lawmakers actually read it. Republicans repeatedly blocked attempts to give struggling Americans more money.
We do not have an unlimited checking account.
The president's threat to possibly veto the bill came just hours after his own White House aides praised the package, adding he would support it.
The president has indicated his intent to sign the bill for a few reasons, because this is going to take care of American families with stimulus checks.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she's ready to introduce a new bill this week, but she'll need the Senate on board to get people money they desperately need.
I need to buy me some food. I don't have anything to buy some food right now. I've run out of all my food stamps.
If there's no agreement and the president doesn't sign this bill, unemployment benefits for over 10 million Americans run out the day after Christmas. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
Trump is leaving office, but not without handing out presidential pardons. He's issued almost 30 pardons and commutations. They include his former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, Charles Kushner, the father of Trump's son-in-law. John Boltby and Peter Atkinson were also pardoned. They were both convicted in a fraud scheme involving Lord Conrad Black. And two people convicted in the Mueller Russia investigation former campaign aide George Papadopoulos and lawyer Alex van der Zwaan both pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. Twitter has decided to wipe millions of followers from the official White House accounts when President Trump leaves office next month. In 2016, Trump, a prolific tweeter, was automatically given Barack Obama's existing followers when his administration handed over the Twitter handles for the White House, which each had about 13 million followers at the time. Joe Biden will be forced to start from scratch. Twitter says followers will be notified and given a choice. Still ahead, the crime behind bars and the prison guards facing charges.
You're watching Global National.
More than a year after an Indigenous man was killed while in custody, charges have been laid. Jonathan Hanouk was in a prison in Newfoundland and Labrador when he died. Tonight, a group of correctional officers and prison guards is facing a range of charges. Ross Lord reports.
The details of what happened in this St. John's prison more than a year ago are unclear, but what is known is disturbing. Inmate Jonathan Hanouk, an Indigenous man from Labrador, was killed. He was awaiting trial in the 2016 killing of an elderly woman. Hanouk had a big disadvantage in life from the day he was born.
He was suffering from fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. He had a very difficult time with that. And our institutions here in Newfoundland had no idea how to work with him and assist him.
Those charged in his death are the same people whose job it is to provide protection. Police say they've laid charges against 10 correctional officers. Their identities have not been released. 3 officers are charged with manslaughter, one with the additional charge of failure to provide the necessaries of life. 7 other prison guards are charged with criminal negligence causing death. A police statement says the accused have been released from custody. They're scheduled to appear in court in February. A lawyer for Hanouk's family questions why people charged with such serious crimes did not face a bail hearing, something he suggests is automatic for Indigenous suspects and others.
The difference is that they are correctional officers and Department of Justice employees. That's the difference. That's the circumstance. That's the favoritism.
Buckingham notes Hanouk is the 3rd inmate to die in Her Majesty's Penitentiary in the past 3 years. He's calling for a public inquiry into correctional policies, leadership, and training for dealing with mentally ill inmates. The province's Justice Minister has issued a statement saying, "We have and will continue to review policies and procedures in adult corrections to ensure we meet best practices from across the country." The statement sidesteps questions about favoritism and does not answer another question, whether the accused are still working at the penitentiary now that they've been charged in the killing of someone in their custody. Ross Lord, Global News.
Up next, sending hope. A BC couple's Christmas wish for 2 Canadians held in China. Christmas is all about being with loved ones, and it'll be tough this year for most of us. But spare thought for Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, the 2 Canadians detained in China who are about to spend their 3rd Christmas alone behind bars. A BC couple who were held for 2 years in China say even the smallest act of kindness can make a world of difference. Abigail Beeman explains.
Life in Chinese jail for Kevin and Julia Garrett meant interrogation, missed meals, lights on 24 hours a day.
Your heads are, into the aisle, so there's people walking right past your head all night. It's very, very difficult.
But through the excruciating ordeal, Christmas was a fleeting moment of good.
They did this beautiful act of kindness.
A makeshift dinner was allowed, 1 year with their son, the other with each other.
Then it just went back to the normal or worse than normal. And so I really feel for the 2 Michaels. They'll be thinking, of course, of family, of Christmases past, and wanting the same thing again, but they won't be able to have it. So I'm praying and hoping that at least the government will allow them to have a call or something with their family.
Julia was behind bars for 6 months, then on house arrest in China. Kevin was imprisoned for 775 days. Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor will soon reach that milestone. They're now facing their 3rd Christmas behind bars. The Garretts see the two cases as similar. They were expats in China for 30 years near the North Korean border. They were picked up by Chinese state security in 2014 after Canada detained Chinese citizen Su Bin in Vancouver, wanted for extradition by the U.S. Much like Meng Wanzhou, except the Garretts point out the stakes are higher with a Huawei executive VIP.
The government at the beginning had indicated to our family that nothing ever resolves within 2 years.
The Garretts encourage everyone to advocate for Kovrig and Spavor and join in the Christmas card writing campaign to Chinese embassies.
It doesn't matter if they ever see the card, they hear that the cards are there, stacked up, piled up, and they think, okay, people care, they're still behind the scenes fighting. That, to me, is kind of helped me get through all those long, lonely moments.
They'll hear about the cards, say the Garretts, from consular visits. Supposed to happen once a month, Kovrig and Spavor didn't have them for months during the pandemic, but have had 3 in the past 3 months.
Those 30 minutes were life-giving because I got messages from Julia, from my family, from our kids. They also, at some point, later on, let me have photos of my family.
Eventually, the Garretts had a happy ending. Kevin was put on a plane home with little warning, and the family was reunited at the Vancouver airport, a resolution they believe possible for the two Canadians, too.
Their family waiting for them inside the door, and that door will open and they will just walk through, and there will be this amazing reunion hug that it changed our lives.
Yes.
Like, we'll never forget that joyful moment.
Global Affairs won't say whether Canada's ambassador has told the two men about all the Christmas cards, nor whether China has made any guarantee that the visits will continue. A spokesperson will only say Canada works tirelessly for meaningful and ongoing access. Abigail Beeman, Global News, Ottawa.
And that is Global National for this Wednesday night. I'm Robin Gill. Tonight, your Canada is Port Elgin, Ontario. We would love to see your corner of this country, so please keep sending your photos to viewers@globalnational.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.